You talked about sales being the dark side, quote unquote dark side, and I'm sure there's some tongue in cheek there. No shade, Shakaria, sales designer, Beta. But what's the difference between storytelling and pitching and selling? How much selling? Before we dive into Brevity and how it works here, I just want to kind of get a kind of a top level about pitches and storytelling here. When you're pitching, in my view, there is a lot of salesmanship going on there. Do you think, and to be blunt, like I think sometimes there can be a little disingenuous salesmanship going on there, where you have to kind of stretch and bend and really kind of get people to buy in and drink the Kool-Aid, for the lack of a better term. What do you think the difference is between kind of storytelling and pitching and selling something?
It's a great question. I come from a place where authenticity and, like I would say, the key principles: authenticity, words matter, and information is most critical in all three of those different scenarios, right? And with Brevity, what we encourage, because there's different aspects to presentations and presenting. Not everybody has charisma. Not everybody has different voice inflections. Our hypothesis at Brevity is really around words matter and information is power. And the more quickly and concisely you can convey that information to quickly get someone to comprehend it, I don't see a large difference between the three that you just mentioned. What I will highlight is that when you infuse storytelling into both, people need sometimes vivid imagery and examples and proof to determine their next steps. And when you can convey your pitch as a story, it just helps register it a lot quicker for people to understand.
Sure.
No different than the concept of what's called like a schema. A schema is something that someone has a earlier reference point, and you can use that schema to accelerate their comprehension to learn the information they need to know. For example, like when people say the Uber for XYZ, right? Which is kind of cliche at a certain point. But, even for Brevity, we've highlighted, and we don't use it as much, but essentially the Grammarly for a business pitch. So but that only works if you know that audience more likely than not knows what Grammarly is.
Gotcha. Now, one thing I want to touch on here is that you said not everybody has kind of a natural charisma or different inflections in their voice. That was my joke. That's my joke. Do you think that's something that can be taught, or is that kind of an inherent skill when it comes to storytelling and pitching?
That's a great question. I think that everybody can improve. I think there are certain like natural gifts. I'm a big fan of like StrengthsFinder. My top 5 are communicator, Rue, futuristic, includer. What's the other one? Oh, activator, right? So I think everybody starts at a certain place and they can improve, but it's like pick your poison, like if and lean into the strengths that you already do have. But to answer your question directly, I think there's always room to improve. But like, my passion growing up was, playing basketball. I thought I'd be in the NBA right now, right? But I'm, 5'11" 3/4, right? I worked a lot on my jump shot. It didn't, I got incrementally better, but I think that people can make incremental improvements, but drastic leaps, I think is pretty difficult.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm 6'8", but I'm super clumsy and terrible. So
can you dunk?
Well, yes, but it's not impressive when you're 6'8".
But it's still dunking. You have to admit, dunking a basketball is a very like riveting feeling.
Oh man, I can tell you, like, I remember the first time I did it. I was a freshman in high school, and it was during just like layup warm-ups in practice one day, and I threw one down, and it was like, we're talking barely over the rim here. Like, I touched the rim and kind of put the ball in, and I flipped out, and everybody in the gym was like, take it down a notch. All right. It wasn't that that was not some amazing windmill dunk that you just did. It was just like over the rim. But I agree with you. It is an amazing feeling. If I could just jump higher than 2.5 inches, I think it would be even more riveting. But we're talking about storytelling. We're talking about pitching. We're getting into the kind of the core of those two things. And we're kind of dancing around the main event here, which is brevity. Talk us through, you kind of mentioned the origins of brevity, but talk us through how brevity works. Say I'm a founder who just signed up. What do I go through to get my pitch created, and how does brevity help me do it?
Yeah, so I'll walk you quickly through the timeline and then kind of transition into where we are now. So we started in September 2020. We launched our minimum viable product in 2021. And the basics of what we completed with 2021 is really helping entrepreneurs convey value under a time constraint. So where our product was most utilized last year was pitch competitions. So we work closely with Founders Live Minneapolis. They have a 99-second pitch requirement, which is not easy. So the way it works is you go into the platform, you type your pitch goal, audience, and duration. Like, how much time do you have to convey value, right? So at that inflection point, our software then recommends the number of statements and slides to keep your pitch on pace and on time. And that timing logic we've built is very, very accurate. Shout out to Richard and Chelsea, who's created it, my two co-founders. But the other essential part about brevity is we've trademarked a pitch framework called SOUL. The best pitches and presentations have soul, not only from an emotional perspective, but what are those core concepts that your audience must know? So this acronym, the S stands for state the target audience and problem. The O speaks to outlining how and why your solution works. The U is about uncovering that proof and potential. And the L is about listing capabilities and needs. So you have the precise number of statements, and that's number of statements and slides in that SOUL framework. And what we found is that story structure and framework helps people increase the chances of being understood, because people need to understand your concept first and then drill down from there. So really step one is entering pitch goal, audience, duration, working through writing out your pitch script and our SOUL framework. And then from there, we've created what's called there's two feedback options right now. There's pitch intelligence. And if you think of the word brevity, the definition is really clarity and concision combined into one word. So we give you high-level scores to improve your clarity and concision. And that's based off of all of the various pitches we've tagged in our database. And then we have a peer feedback system where you can seamlessly share your pitch with as many trusted colleagues as possible. They can provide feedback in the Brevity platform without signing up for an account. And then from there, it's the getting your story script on the right number of slides in that SOUL pitch framework.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. So it's the system more provides kind of the skeleton for the pitch, the framework for the pitch, rather than kind of the pitch and the story itself.
Correct. And then what we're implementing in the next month is an examples library. Some people may get writer's block. I call it pitch block. But you'll be able to filter by industry, the pitch duration, the success they received from the pitch. So if you're a consumer products company and you want to see how other consumer products companies are pitching their business that have raised Series A capital or seed funding, at your fingertips, you'd be able to access those pitch transcripts to see if there's something that you may be able to emulate from their message that ties to yours.